Told you. He's a very loud.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
See, that's why I do it.
No. You're fucking always talking to him. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Who's Your Main. This is our special episode. We've been waiting for this. This is the Metal Gear Solid Retro Replay. I'm here with my co-host, Anthony.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
And we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, or do you want us to introduce you?
I'm lost. Was that my cue?
Yeah. Yes.
Stand
Hello.
in front of the class and tell us your name.
My name.
Cut the feed! Cut the feed!
We'll fix it in post. Maybe, I don't know how this works.
Yeah, of course.
No. Hello. My name is. I'm the infamous Zero, but my actual name is Marco. So, out of respect for my friends here that go by their actual names, I can go by whatever in the episode, but I am the infamous Zero. So, I'm super excited to be your guys' first guest special episode type deal collab. But I'm also looking forward to talking about one of my favorite. Well, actually, if I had to make a list, this would be number one for sure. My favorite video game and video game series of all time. So I'm excited.
We've been very excited. We've been talking about this for I don't even know how many weeks. Folks at home know, because I think we've mentioned it as if it were going to be the next episode for weeks.
Yeah, it happened quite a few times, and I was like, "Oh, maybe he's gonna ask me this week." I felt like a fucking girl in high school. Like he's finally gonna ask me to prom, and then he never asked.
Yeah, I got nervous.
I'm just standing by my locker, like, "Hey, Jard," and then you just walk by, like, "What's up?" Just, okay, maybe next week.
Yes, yeah. The folks, the reason we have him here is I know some stuff about Metal Gear Solid. I played Metal Gear Solid 1, I played 2, and 3, but I didn't play 4 and 5 and so on and so on. And Marco here, he's like hyper focused. He knows all the stuff. I watched his footage, which you'll be seeing on the screen here probably, for playing through the game, and his knowledge of the game is very, very solid. If it had been me playing the game, you'd see me fumbling about, and some of those scenes you did where you just like beat the shit out of the guys instead of shooting them and stuff. I was like, oh my god, this is the real Snake. This is what it's really like. This is probably how you're supposed to play this game.
Yeah, I've legitimately been playing that game since I was a kid. We've talked a little bit about this when it comes to like my introduction to video games. Where like I grew up, my earliest memories in general are probably when I was like 4 or 5 and watching my dad play Resident Evil in my parents' bedroom, and being like hooked on like just video games, because seeing how my dad got into them. And like Resident Evil and Metal Gear are, for me and him, are like our number one, number two. You can interchange them depending on who has the latest game out of like our favorite games. And Metal Gear is like, to this day, like every time we see each other, we're at before the day's over, we're spouting out Metal Gear quotes. We're humming the music. You get caught when you're in the alert phase. So it's like it's amazing for us. It's incredible. And like when I first started playing that game, I never beat the game. I never played through disc 2 until I was in my 20s, because when I was little, we had the actual copy of the game. My dad and my uncle made a lot of bootleg copies of games. We talked about this, Jared, right? Where it was like we had a bunch of my dad would buy. He's a tinkerer, so he would go and buy like consoles from every generation at the time and pretty much fix them and sell them. But for the PlayStation, him and my uncle would install these chips that'll let you play burned games on them. And so he and my uncle spent a lot of time just downloading or renting games from Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, ripping them and then taking them back and getting more games. So we had binders of bootleg video games with just Sharpie written on them for like games you never even heard of. Whatever the worst games that came out in that generation, like we had it in that binder with some stupid with magic marker pretty much written on there with with the title. And if it was a good game, they would copy, or my uncle would find like a fan art of the box cover or of the CD, and he would print it on this weird, funky, like velvet type of material, and they would put that on the cover. So we had our own like personalized discs of games that were good. Uh, so it was a good time. It was a good time. But Metal Gear is like I'll never forget when I lost the second disc. I dropped it in like in my closet. I had a two-sided closet. One was cluttered with my dad's stuff, and I dropped the disc in there for one reason or another. I dropped it, and then I just never saw it again. So I don't know if it fell into the back rooms or the atoms just happened to align that day and it fell right through the floor. But I never saw the second disc again. Never got to beat the game. So the first half of the game, up until I was in my 20s, I knew that game like the back of my hand. Never knew how the game ended. Never thought to watch a playthrough. So I never actually knew how the game ended, aside from like knowing like the lore from the other games. Like, oh, that's how Metal Gear Solid 1 ended. And then actually finally being able to play it was crazy, because I was like, this is literally like 20 years in the making when I finally officially on paper beat the game, because I lost that second disc. And I'm not sure why to this day why we never we should have just went to go rent a copy of the game and then just bootleg the second disc, but we never did. I don't know why we didn't never did that.
That's crazy. I love that story about the binder full of stuff, but I didn't know that you hadn't beaten it until you were like older. That's crazy. That you only had the one disc. You didn't even, well, maybe we should go and re-rent the game or nothing. You just didn't want to do that, or no?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Never. Now that I think about it, I never thought about it until just now. Why we never just? Oh, maybe I may have been too scared to tell my dad that I lost the game. That may have been what it was, and we just kept playing the first half.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. uh, I think we've talked about when we first got the game. That was kind of my first question for you. Was like, when did you first get the game? So you were much younger. Anthony, I don't remember. Had we shared that story before? How you
Uh,
and I got the
I think
game?
so. We'll retell it anyway since what the episode's about. But I know my first experience with it was the Pizza Hut demo disc that came with the opening level, where it's got the opening cinematic, and you have to sneak in through the sub, or you're shot out of the sub and you sneak in. And I replayed that level over and over so many times, kind of like what you were saying. It was just so much fun that I didn't care, that I didn't know what happened once you got up to you got up to the top of the elevator. I didn't know what happened after that. I didn't care. It was just so much fun playing that first level that I just kept doing it over and over again. And then, obviously eventually I got the full game and the full release of the game. And yeah, it was insane going from, think about where games were before Metal Gear Solid, and then how cinematic and just over the top everything, every little detail was, the music, the cinematography, all of it. And yeah, all of that came from a PlayStation Pizza Hut disc.
The voice acting in this game, really incredible. Really set it apart from probably all the games that we had played as kids up to that point. And so just that first intro level is really insane. The music is really crazy. They're doing calls, they're doing costume changes. Rewatching Zero's intro to this was really interesting. I think I asked you about that. Where you were sneaking, you just go up and you punch this guy and you jack him in the jaw, and then you ran like around the way and hid behind the forklift. It was so funny. I don't know if either of you remember your first impressions. I guess you kind of just told us your first impressions, Anthony. But I was wondering Marco, when you first played this game, what other games had you played, and what were your first impressions when you first booted this up?
I think because the first few games that I remember playing were like Sonic the Hedgehog, right, on the Genesis. And I don't know really what I played in between, as like in the gap. The only game I remember playing around that time, and it may be like a false memory and it may have come after Metal Gear, was playing a game on the PlayStation called Jersey Devil, where you're playing as like this. I think he's like a kid that has almost like a vigilante kind of. I don't think he's an actual like monster or anything. I think it's literally just a dude in a costume. Um, so I didn't really have a lot of exposure to like other than watching my dad play Resident Evil. I didn't really have a lot of exposure to like games that weren't like colorful, right? Like Sonic or Mario. But I think why I didn't. It's like being, especially as like a kid, right? There's a lot of stuff in that game, especially if you're playing as a child. There's not a whole lot that you're going to understand about what they're talking about when it comes to the genome soldiers and Big Boss and all that jazz. The Hind D, like as a kid, you don't know what the hell a Hind D is. You assume it's a helicopter, I guess. That's what the camera keeps pointing to when they talk about the Hind D. But it's like you don't really know what's going on. Even if the game spends a lot of time giving you a lot of dialogue and explaining the story. So it's like I think I looked at it as more I'm playing as this really cool guy, right? That's beating up. He's in a one guy by himself, and when you start, you have no weapons, right? It's just one guy sneaking into this base with a bunch of bad guys, and you're just walking around whooping ass. Like it's like it just felt so cool to play as Solid Snake, right? And then also like for me, not knowing about the original Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 games, it's like this is just I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what he's about. Just playing it for the first time, it's just like, wow, this guy is so cool. Like he doesn't ever sound scared. He doesn't sound anything. He never really sounds happy, sad. There's a few, I mean, aside from a few moments where he gets angrier or whatever, he really shows no emotion, right? He's just stone cold. Um, and it makes sense, when we talk about the history in game and out of game, I guess, of who Solid Snake is, of why he's that way. But like you're like, dude, this guy is just so cool. Like I love playing as this guy. And then my dad right behind me, who I'm sure obviously at the time does understand what's going on and is paying attention to the story. He's also just like, dude, isn't it like so cool? Like, yeah, this dude is awesome. So like having like my dad right behind me, just reassuring and like affirming that Solid Snake is so cool. We're just playing this cool guy. You go around and find weapons, and you can punch guys and knock them out, or you shoot them. Who cares? You do whatever you want because you're playing as the cool guy with the bandana and the low voice and the monotone, like in the monotone voice. Like who cares? I'm Solid Snake. Who cares? Like I'm gonna get to the next level one way or another. It doesn't matter. I'm Solid Snake, baby. I'm just the one guy here by myself here to get the job done. So it's like, as a kid, it's like, oh man, like this is my Mission Impossible. This is my like Rocky type thing. Like this is my hero. He's just so cool, so edgy, so cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they really captured that, like the time period. It's such a timepiece of the action hero, the stoicism. They grabbed a hold of. Obviously, we know from playing 2 that he was based on the Escape from New York character Pliskin or whatever, Ercole Pliskin. I think that's his name, right? Snake. They call him Snake in that too.
Oh yeah, in the movie Escape from New York with Kurt Russell, his name is Snake Plissken. Yeah, has the eye patch and everything.
Yeah, he's Big Boss. My favorite part about the intro is after the way they handshake the player is really great. Here's the guys. Here's the radar system. They even throw a puddle in there, and they show you that, well, man, if you step in the puddle, the guy's here. And then when you go out onto the surface, you see the Hind D. And then you start walking in the snow, and there's footprints. Like, that blew my fucking mind as a kid. I was like, what the fuck? And then the guy was like, I see the footprints. Whose fucking footprints are these? And then he follows them, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, that was crazy to me. Let's see. What was it? I was gonna ask some more stuff. I got a lot of questions here to ask. You talk about replaying the game. How often do you replay this game?
I replay this game probably no less than like 8 times, maybe like every like 6 months. It's one of those games, like everybody has that game where like you can just, if you're bored and you have nothing to do, you can just pop it in and you'll just sit there and just play, right? Like I had every version of this game that's come out aside from Twin Snakes is the only game I haven't played because for some reason it's not visually appealing to me. They try to ram like the first game into like the second game's engine, and it always looked just like off to me. I don't know what it is about the pixelated faces and the fact that you can't see. I guess you can't actually see their eyes, and it's just the because the game has with the voice acting and everything just has less emotion. You kind of let your or for me, I let kind of like my imagination, you know, play the rest of that out for me, and it makes it so much cooler to me. But every I've owned every version of this game. The first collection that came out, I think for the PS3, I want to say, when they did kind of like a collection back then. I had that. I have that somewhere. And then when they announced the collection here recently, I remember I was living with my dad at the time, and we were both just counting down the days for when it was going to come out. And I remember getting the game, and I think my dad was out of town. He worked like in the oil field at the time, and I did not boot the game up until he came back home. And he came in, and I was sitting on the couch, and I was like, Papa squat, pop, let's do this." And we booted it up, and I think I got all the way to from beginning all the way to I think the second. I think right before you go and have to pop the second disc in, and we just sat there not saying a word, and it was just we were just watching, playing, and we were just like regurgitating lines, saying lines before they happen. And it was like one of those things where like the game is so for both of us, it's so like near and dear to our heart. It's no matter how much time passes, it doesn't matter. Like we'll sit there and we'll play for however long until we have to get up and go do something else. I would like it was awesome when because like I waited I think like 3 extra days until after the collection came out. I was like, finally, I don't have to emulate this game. I can just play it on the console. It's on PS5. Like this is what I want. And the old man wasn't home. I was like, well, I'm not about to boot it up and make any progress until he gets here. So he got there, and it was like we were taking turns. Like I gotta go pee here. Get in there, boom, let's go. Like you know this level. You know this level just as well as I do. Boom, you fight Ocelot. You fight Mantis. Like I gotta pee. I gotta go make some food. Like it was awesome. But like I mean, like I play this game too often, way too often. But it's one of those games where, like that's my comfort game. Like if I had to pick any situation where it's like if you could only have this thing, it feels like you can game for the rest of your life. The first Metal Gear Solid is absolutely, without a doubt, hands down the game I would pick. I would never get bored of it. I do not ever get bored of it.
Man, I'm glad you said that about the visuals, because I feel like that's something that was so ingrained to the PlayStation 1 experience, where it was almost like reading a book. You know, the character is almost imagined in your mind how this person is, how they look, how they sound, how they feel, and you filled in those blanks as you played the game. And obviously now graphics are so good and video games are made so well, you don't have to do that anymore. The game shows you everything, it tells you everything. And back then, I really feel like that was a part of the magic, was just filling in those gaps where the game just couldn't quite show you what they wanted to show or do what they wanted to do. But I got it. It's all up here, all in my head. I'll fill in those blanks. It's like I always talk about with Fallout 4, where in my mind, it's the perfect game. Obviously, when I play it, it's not. But I love that. I love hearing that when you play it, you get to fill in those blanks the same way that I do when I play some of my favorite games.
That was exactly what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like this game is so good because it's like it came out at the perfect time, right? Where like a game like this, you have like it's something you have to do. Your brain has to take over for the lack of visual facial expressions, right? For the lack of movement, the stiff movement, your brain gives you like you said, to fill in the blanks. And it's like, and the fact that Kojima went out to purposefully make this an interactive movie, right? Like a movie that you are directing as well as you are acting. You're the star of, and it's like it just gives you that extra bit of juice when you talk about your imagination. I think that's why it's like lightning in a bottle, where it's like to the thing that started this kind of genre of tactical espionage action, right? Like this was the fuse, this was the lightning in the bottle that he did, because you take advantage of the fact that the limitations of the technology at the time combined with the way he directed this movie that you're able to interact with, and the way that just the human brain works, and just how you fill in those gaps naturally. It's like the perfect storm, right? And the game is, even though nowadays, right, you look at the game, like that game looks atrocious. It doesn't even look like they're speaking. They're just shaking their head. It's like, no, not to me, buddy. Trust me. To me, Snake is standing right in front of me delivering this dialogue. To me, it's me looking at Ocelot, as he's telling you that, that the Colt Single Action Army is the best gun that's ever been created, that he only needs 6 bullets to take you down. And you're just like, okay, yeah. But to you, it's like it's you. He's talking to you, and it feels like he's talking to you, even though the camera's, panning overhead. You feel like you're there. You're in the room, and you're the guy that he's telling you, you're not. I'm gonna take you down. You're not good enough, and you can't help but be like, I don't know, buddy. I don't think you know who I am. But it's like that's all. That's all you. That's all you. It's you putting yourself in this movie, which is what Kojima set out to do. I don't want you to just play a game. I want you to be a part of this movie. And for me, that's 100% of the time. Doesn't matter if back when I was 4 or 5, or now that I'm 32, it doesn't matter. Like it's the same every time. It's me. I'm Solid Snake.
That's probably one of my favorite aspects of the original game, is the almost like puppetry that goes on with the animations, and how perfectly that translates to, yep, that's their mouth moving. My brain sees that. I see their eyes looking at each other. The animations like feel very realistic, and just the original PlayStation, it just was like magic. Those graphics are magic still to this day, and we see that reflected in modern indie gaming, where it's a choice to make things look like that style of graphics, just like pixel art and so on. But this is like playing a movie. And what's incredible is there's choices that you can make throughout the game. There's 2 endings. For those who don't know, I don't know why you're going to listen to a deep dive about Metal Gear Solid 1, but there's 2 endings, spoiler alert. And that's a question for a little bit later, I think. But obviously, I think all of us think that this game aged perfectly, like fine wine. But if you were to tell someone who's new, who wants to get into Metal Gear Solid 1, what's the best way that you think that it should be played, and do you think this game has aged well?
I think there's no question. I think they did a good job of not trying to force like a remake or a bunch of remakes. I think every time that game has been kind of re-released, if to me it feels like it's still the same game. I've never been, as much as I would like to agree with the all the old games, you should play them on old hardware. I usually don't. But if I had to pick, if you have the means to do it, I would play this game on its most original state, because I think what you get from the old colors, I think, adds a lot to it. I think you'd get more out of it than you would today, because even when I'm playing it, it just feels like it might be a little too bright for me than just the colors in general. Like, just, obviously they want to try to make the game look sharper, and they want it to look better. They want to do as much as they can to make it look better without ruining the game. And one of the easiest ways to help or hurt that is with the colors. And I think it's still fine. I love it. I'll never stop playing it. The colors won't, not unless they make the walls yellow, or something ridiculous. But I think I remember the first, as soon as you boot up the game and you're playing, like the way it's dimly lit, and you have to sneak around, and it's like the way the shadows look, and the way everything looks on that old TV screen. Like, I'll never forget it. To this day, I'll never forget it. There's the way you walk around in the dark, and it's still, it's not pitch black, but you're walking around in the dark when you're outside. You need to use those shadows to your advantage to get through and sneak through the base. Like, it feels different. It gives you that little bit of extra, like, oomph. So if I had to pick, this is probably the only game that I'd say, like, that I would agree 100% with with Anthony when it comes to playing old games on old hardware. If you can do it, holy, play this game on the PlayStation, on an old TV, because oh my god, you will not regret it. I remember it vividly, like I was playing it yesterday. Though just the way the dark, just how just dark is just is in this game is just different than if you were to play it side by side with like the collection that came out. You know,
It's so hard to explain to somebody who it's like explaining, music, somebody that's an audiophile, and it's like, here, listen to this song, and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds really good. I agree with you 100%. I own I think it's called the Legacy Collection on PlayStation 3, where it was kind of every Metal Gear Solid game. Um, they had digital versions of the PlayStation 1 games, and they're great. They're fine if you just want to hop in and play. It's very convenient. It's got an HDMI. You can play it on PlayStation 3, so you can play it through a modern TV through HDMI. It's great. It's fine. That's you listening to Spotify on your phone, and it's great. And that's if you go to the gym and you're working out, that's probably fine for most people. But this is like an experience. When you get to taste this, it's something so special and so unique, and it really is. This a game like this is why I play video games, and it's so fun sharing that with other people and kind of letting them see the difference between, the cigar is more sweet when enjoyed. Sure, you can get the cheapo one from the gas station, but this is nice quality.
Hey, yeah, this ain't no Swisher.
Yeah.
What are you doing? The cheapo. Okay, you made me sit up straight when you said cigar.
I thought that'd get you.
I was like, okay. I didn't know that you would say that you would rather this game be played on original hardware. I thought for sure you'd be on my team. Now I'm alone. I'm like, just play it any way you can.
not today, buddy. Maybe if you eventually do like a Resident Evil retro, I'll be
Oh.
like, hey, who cares? You
Yeah,
can
fuck it.
play that shit right now. Get it on Steam. It's on sale.
Talking about the greatest games ever made, Resident Evil's right there, but we're not talking about Resident Evil. It'll get off the rails.
Yeah, what are you doing bringing that up?
All right, who's your favorite character in the game? You gotta hit us with that.
Oh, it's 100% just Solid Snake in general. Throughout all the games, no matter the storyline, there's a lot more games about Big Boss than there is about Solid Snake. But I think there's just something about Solid that's just, and I think this also has something to do with my dad as well. Because like I said, me and my dad me and my dad. If you ever met my dad, if you met me, you've met my dad. We're the same person, same personality. We make each other laugh with the same dumb jokes. Like we're the same person. And I'm very proud to be like I'm just a straight up clone of my dad. But I think a big reason why I just love Solid so much more than like Liquid or Solidus or Raiden or anybody else, or specifically picking Solid over like Naked Snake or Big Boss, is because I think for me it's like Solid Snake at the end of the day is the son of Big Boss, right? And I think I just kind of I'm a very immersive person. I think I try to reflect that when it comes to this game as like, yes, I'm very good at what I do when it comes to a lot of things, right? When it comes to video games, I've been a competitive gamer, even if it's like been in like the amateur scene. I've been good enough to be picked to be on like a competitive team. I've been able to do these things with my career. I've been able to go to school and be an electrical engineer, but I've always felt like I am good, but my old man is just a better version of me, right? Like my old man also went to school to be an electrical engineer. I'm pretty good. I'm okay. I feel like at writing poetry. I've written poems before. Jared have seen some of my poems. I think I've helped when mentioned or you've mentioned Lilith playing Silent Hill, a friend of ours, and helping with what I've seen and done in poetry. My dad is better than I am, right? When it comes to playing video games, my dad, he's been retired from playing video games, but in his prime, I feel like he's better than I am, right? And I think when it comes to Metal Gear and the fact that it's our number one, hands down, it's your favorite, it's my favorite. I feel like with Big Boss being that for Solid Snake, and like no matter how good Solid Snake ever was when you play, and this is funny that you haven't seen this because you haven't played 4, but at the end, Snake talks to Big Boss, and the first thing he does is Big Boss hits him with CQC, and Big Boss is a lot older than Solid Snake, and still is able to take him and knock him to the ground. Right? Even though it is technically old Snake, but it's like it's that kind of like a relationship, right? Where it's like I love Solid Snake because I think my old man is better than I am, and the old man would pick Big Boss, right? And it's just reflected in that way in my life. And but Solid Snake is the younger, cooler guy. He's just so edgy and cool, you know. And I just feel like that's me. There are parts of my personality where I feel like I try to replicate from Solid as a person because I mean the dude's a very damaged dude. Like it's not like I don't try to be him because that dude is full of problems. Fucking, but there are some aspects that I'm sure we'll get into when it comes to the overall what do you get out of this game and the story. But like there's just certain things that I feel like Solid has that Big Boss doesn't, just because Big Boss is the OG, right? And that's how I feel it is for me in my life and me and my dad, where it's like if we were in a video game and we were in Metal Gear Solid, no matter how no matter how good I would be, there's only one Big Boss, you know, and I feel like that's my old man. So my old man would be Big Boss, Naked Snake, and I would always pick Solid Snake 10 times out of 10 without a doubt.
I like that. I like that, especially because this particular game feels very, very much about family, patricide, siblings, whatever the sibling side is. But I like that. I think that's really cool. That's a really cool reason to like the main character instead of just like he's the main guy. I like him. He's the main guy. I like that a lot. What about you, Anthony? Do you have a favorite character in Metal Gear Solid 1?
Man, that's tough to follow. I was gonna say for the exact opposite reason. I really enjoyed Naked Snake was because of that inexperience playing in 3, not in 1, but in 3. I really enjoyed playing as a Snake before he became Snake. You know, before he was the legend. You know, the greatest soldier on the battlefield. That's kind of what I enjoyed was the untapped potential. You know, the word that I hate so much. I love the idea of being somebody who can be that, but they need that push, like you said, from that mentor to, you know, even if the lesson is so hard that it breaks them down to their core of who they are. I love that idea of being able to be reduced to absolute nothing, you know, being broken and sitting there defeated and watching as your enemy wins and then finding victory from that. And so to me, Metal will always have a special place in my heart as being my favorite Metal Gear. And so that Snake will always be my Snake. But after hearing after hearing that comparison, man, yeah, I mean, I think all of us can kind of look at a paternal figure and you know pull from that and go, oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. Like you should hear some of the stories that we could you know, everybody has that. And so I love that idea of using that through the character to make the character your own. And I can totally see why that would be the best Snake, but I got to go with Naked Snake. What about
Well,
you, Jared? Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
That would be all good and all if we were talking about Metal Gear Solid 3.
Okay, well, you asked.
I said Metal Gear Solid 1.
Okay, well then Snake.
Oh, I picked
Is that what we're gonna do?
Okay, all right. Well, I'm not picking now.
Okay.
You pissed me off.
Who's your favorite, bro? Come on, who is it? Roy Campbell, loser.
What the fuck? Favorite in the? I don't know. This question was aimed at you guys, it's not at me. But if I were to sit here and think about the narrative and things like that, I mean, just the overall, both Liquid and Solid, the brothers fighting and vibing and being jealous of one another. I always really liked that, but I don't know. There's so many great personalities within the game, and each member of the Foxhound team that's bad. That's I just find that fascinating. They all have their different reasons. They all have their death scenes, and it's really cool. And it's hard to pick one. Of course, the easier character to relate to, like from a human standpoint, is probably Otacon, because he's just a regular guy.
I knew you were going to say Otacon.
Yeah, you knew it because he pisses himself in that scene. we'll get more to the narrative here in a minute, but I just like that character because he's so like down to earth, normal. Even though he does something very fantastical in the story, he even says one of his lines is, "These guys are like out of one of my Japanese animes," which is funny because it's like, you're in a Japanese anime. Like, what are you talking about? Fourth wall stuff. That's that Hideo Kojima's brand or whatever. Which brings me to my next like big question here or talking point, which is the voice acting. This game has like incredible voice acting, especially for the time period. It was just wild. Like, you boot this game up, and I mean, I played like, I don't know, 2D games. Then maybe I can't remember when this came out in comparison, but there's nothing in Final Fantasy VII, and this game has complete voice acting. All lines are spoken either through the codec or on screen, and it's cinematic. And it was just incredible experience to have that. This goes to both of you, but did you at the time did you happen to learn like the names of voice actors, and did you carry that on into other games where you were like, man, this game's got voice acting? Who's this voice actor? Because it's just such iconic voice acting in this game. But were there any that stood out to you?
David Hayter is the only ironically, David Hayter is the first voice actor that in any game that I've played for a long time. It was the first name that I was like, I knew who he was. Like, I knew, like I ever cared to actually be like, who, or I guess to paid attention that was the name of the guy behind Solid Snake. And I don't think I ever paid attention to who voiced what until, oh man, probably until I was in also again in like my late 20s. Like, I never cared. I never had a thing where it was like, I really hope this person does a voice. I really hope, oh, this game has so and so doing a voice. Like, oh, that's not like, I can't even think of a name off the top of my head right now that I can even use in the example of like, oh, this person is voicing this character. That's, yeah, I'll play that game. Just, I want to hear what they, what he has to say, type of thing. It was always, but David Hayter is always the number one that comes in my mind, because it's like, again, like lightning in a bottle. Like, there's no way, no matter how hard you try, you will never be able to replicate what that game did. And it's a part of it was the voice acting was so much, right? Of how David Hayter delivered lines about a legendary soldier that came out of retirement for like the classic, like, one last job, like type of, it was basically that. It was basically a cheesy one last job. They pulled me out of the, when I got out of the fire, they pulled me back in type of story. But the way David Hayter just gives his lines, and the fact that it's still, again, Solid Snake is a monotone character.
It's Snake. I'm in front of the disposal facility. Excellent, Snake. Age hasn't slowed you down one bit.
He doesn't care at the end of the day. It's like, they're giving me a job to do. Like, who cares? No one else can do it. I guess I'll do it. Taking on, the team that I used to be a part of. Like, I guess. Like, that's pretty much just how he is. But like, the way Hayter gives the lines, and the way every piece of dialogue, when he's serious, when he's less serious, when he's curious, when he's asking questions, when the way he gets pissed when you don't answer his question directly, right? Like, when you're talking about Otacon, right? And Otacon's like, the first thing he asks him, "Are you one of them?" And he's like, "No, I work alone. No, I'm not one of them." And he's like, "Oh, alone? Are you also an otaku?" And Snake's like, "Will you get out? Like, get out of here and talk."
How long are you gonna stay in there?
Huh? Are you one of them?
No, I'm not. I always work alone.
Alone? Are you an otaku too?
Come on, get out. We can't stay here forever.
Your uniform.
Like, what are you doing? Like, the way he delivers those lines are like, hey man, I'm not here to waste time and talk about bullshit. Like, get out of here. here. I have a mission to do, and let's get this. I have no way. I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. Just get out of here and give me the information I need. And it's like the way he delivers those lines is incredible. And like every time I see like a TikTok or a YouTube video, anything that has to do with David Hayter, I'm glued to the screen and I want to hear it from beginning to end because there's just something about that man's voice where it's like that's my guy, you know, like when I wanted to get into kind of voice acting, like that was my inspiration to try to be. I want to be a character that David Hayter could play. I want to try to be a someone that David Hayter would look at and be like, oh yeah, if I had the opportunity, that's the guy I want to pass the torch to, right? It's like David Hayter is my guy, you know.
That's awesome. Yeah, much the same. I didn't really appreciate that kind of stuff until I was older, and really it spawned from talking with you, Jared, and our mutual friend Lemon. You guys were the ones who introduced that stuff to me, kind of peeling behind the curtain and looking at who made, the special sauce. That's what got me interested in it was your passion for that. I had none of that of my own. Obviously I respected the work that was done. Imagine me playing my favorite game prior to this is Crash Bandicoot, and the only voice line is gibberish for all intents and purposes. And then you come into this, and it's exactly like what we're talking about. It's a movie. I mean, it's a fully scripted out and played movie where you a character. And so it blew my mind at the time, but I never had the foresight or the kind of wherewithal to, look and see at the credits and see who these people were and then try to follow their works afterwards. I wasn't thinking about that until I was much older.
See, for me, the voice actors stood out like immediately, especially Liquid Snake, because he was Leonardo in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay, Shredder, what have you done with April?
The turtles. Where'd they come from?
And later, we found out he was Max Sterling in Robotech.
Glad we're gonna be on the same team. I'm Corporal Max Sterling, sir. You call me Max. I'm very inexperienced and might be needing a lot of help.
And several other things. I mean, this guy went on to do tons of voices. And those voice actors in this game, like the voice direction, everything was just so good. I mean, some of these voice lines, I think all of us quote to each other, and we have not all known. Well, me and Anthony know each other since high school, but Marco, we've not known you that long, and we're already sitting there going, Metal Gear, Metal Gear.
You mean Metal Gear?
Silly shit like that. Shut up in there, will ya? The other one that was really funny is the Baker when you're fighting Ocelot. And he's
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of that game where like you're fighting and like Ocelot's talking to you like you better hurry up. He's not gonna last too long. You're just running around and in the middle of all this chaos, in the middle of this like, oh, I love the smell of gunpowder. Oh man, all right, I'm alive again. Let's go. If you try to hide behind a pillar, he tell hiding's not gonna help you, and he bounces bullets off the middle of all of that. You just hear as fucking Baker's just strapped to this center pillar, tied to C4, and you're just like. He's like, you better hurry up. He's like, bro, Baker, you're ruining the moment, my guy. Like, and I made it worse in my playthrough. And Jared, the first thing he noticed was along with me chasing Ocelot around and ruining his dialogue because he's like trying to reload. And he's like, I love to reload during the battle. And I'm like in his face shooting him with the SOCOM. But there's a point where I think I missed my input, so I like do like a circle or something. But he says something else. And I interrupt him again, but not by shooting him, by shooting Baker. And and I've never ever done that in my entire life of playing that game. Never once have I ever shot Baker. And of course, when I'm recording footage for this replay, this thing that we for us to talk about, I shoot him, and I was like, he does. I don't think he does like a weird ass sound, and it threw me off, and I was like, oh. That's what he sounds like. But it also interrupts Ocelot's dialogue, and he just goes, I think he says like, what are you aiming at or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I put my head in my hands, and I was like, oh no. Of all days for this to happen, this is when it happens. It was bound to happen eventually. I lost my edge. I shot Baker.
Yeah. Well, the footage for that fight was so funny because you're chasing him down the SOCOM and he's like, hiding won't help you, and you're like, I'm following you.
I'm like, what do you mean? I know, I'm in your face. Like, I see you're hiding behind the SOCOM that's in between my eyebrows.
Along with the wonderful voice acting in the game, the music is really iconic. As soon as you play through it one time, it stays with you forever. Do you have a favorite track in this game?
My favorite track is when, in the beginning of the game, when you go up the elevator and you get through that dialogue, Hind D, and you're trying to get into the base. The second you get into the base and you crawl, I guess, either out or you climb down the ladder once you get out of the vent, that track that plays, um, before you you head into the elevator to go down. It's that track, that first track, that is my favorite track in the entire game. Aside from, like, when it comes to music of a stage, if I had to pick just like, I don't know, I mean, I guess technically it's a song. It's the encounter theme, when you get spotted, slash like the little kind of different version they do for when you fight the bosses. But as far as like a level, it's the first. As soon as you get into the base, that first room, when you have to go to the elevator, that's my favorite track for sure. As far as like a stage, and then just overall, a song that I could have on replay would probably be either the boss theme, which is just like or like almost like a remix, I guess, of the encounter theme, or vice versa, whatever came first. But it's definitely like once you get spotted, that theme. Like me and my dad will be doing nothing in separate rooms, doing whatever, and we'll just walk by the room and we'll just be like, dun 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 dun. But we'll just start walking around, just like humming the encounter theme, and it's like it's that one that just hits the spot, But if it's something that I can just like sit here and jam to, it's definitely as soon as you get inside the base, that first song that plays for that stage. That's what it is for me.
I'm right there with you. I think both of those are amazing songs. I remember the first time I heard the opening of the game, the opening cinematic of the game. I have a distinct memory in my head of just like sitting up in my chair and being like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Like, there's no way that this is the game. And then you start playing and it is. And it just got you in that mindset of like, I am this really strong, covert guy who's going to do this by himself. And then, like you said, all of that ambient noise kind of added to that, where like even just something as simple as, keep in mind, this is like PlayStation 1 stuff, but hearing his footsteps when he goes across a metal walkway, and just like that like ting 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 of his feet, that's like burned in my brain, of those sound effects that will live in my brain forever and take up precious space. But yeah, the encounter music is just, that's got to be my favorite of all time. It's so iconic. It does exactly what the music should do. And we talked about this when we were talking about our Final Fantasy VII replay, which is you become the character because of the music. And I felt like I was Snake. And it was because of the music. It was because of the ambience. It was because of the world being alive. And then I was able to, kind of step into it. So I agree with you. I can't argue there. I think both of those are really, really good examples of not just the best music but I think the best music in all of gaming.
Yeah, anyone that's played that game and you play through the first level, that opening cinematic where he's swimming through, and you hear that kind of like opera voice singing as you swim in. There is so much more. I think it plays in the end credits as well. But if you haven't beaten the game, or if you've only watched a little bit of a playthrough, or watched the whole playthrough and didn't watch the actual credits when the song plays, if you haven't listened to the song, it's called "The Best Is Yet to Come." That is the song that it begins with that kind of opera sound, but the song is so good. I have it on a Spotify playlist, and like it's so good. The way every instrument, every everything that they do, every note that they play is incredible. So I highly recommend it. It's fairly, I don't think it's too long. Maybe it's 2, maybe 3 minutes, but the song is so good. There's no like real like lyrics. It's not like a something that you like can sing along. Like it's not one of those songs. It's just like you said. It's a lot more ambient, even though that's like it's a regular song, but like it's still you get that feel, especially if you've played the game. Like you feel the game in the music. And again, lightning in a bottle. Like it's so hard to do that. There's only a few games that I think you can say that about. Or like if I were to play the song right now on like a Spotify thing, and we're just sitting in a room and we're playing, and I'll play the song like on a speaker in the floor in the middle of us three. You know, we'll close our eyes and we don't hear the music, we see Metal Gear, right? And that's the difference. Like that's something that music, again, this formula that they did, everything that they put together, how it all comes together and what it creates. It's like just listening to that song, the best is yet to come. It's like you close your eyes and I know when I do, and I know when the old man does, you close your eyes and all you see Solid Snake, you see that bandana, you see that mech, you see Gray Fox, you see Otacon, you see everybody. And that's how powerful that music is, and what they were able to accomplish is closing your eyes, listening to music, and seeing this cinematic masterpiece of a video game, mind you. At the end of the day, it's still a video game. So what they were able to do is just incredible.
Yeah, that was the song I was gonna say. The best is yet to come. That's the song I think of when I think of Metal Gear Solid. It just hits me right in the fucking like button. It like takes me out of my body. It's like boom, and I'm like fucking floating above my body.
Start astral projecting, you know.
Whoa, Metal Gear. That's exactly it.
One of the I'm gonna throw in one last anecdote here, and you know this is just a stupid me being chronically online. That's what this is. But I love watching like wrestling documentaries about some of my favorite wrestlers, and one of the things that they talk about is, you know, the package of the wrestler is just as important as the wrestler themselves. That, you know, the presentation, the way that they are first introduced to you as a character, that's important. And one of the things that they talk about is the pace of the song. So like imagine if the Undertaker came down the ramp to techno. It wouldn't fit because he's sauntering down the ring. You know, it's this dark, brooding, intimidating presence. It wouldn't make sense if it was techno music. But the same thing is flipped of like Ultimate Warrior. He's this big jacked up dude who's all energy. He needs to have that up tempo music. And like my first impression of Solid Snake was that song, and it was like lightning in a bottle. It's exactly what you said. It was so perfect for getting you in the mindset of doing this, you know, you said it so perfectly, doing this impossible mission because no one else can. And to him, he's like, ugh, it's another Tuesday at work. All right, going into Shadow Moses. Here we go. That's so perfect for him. I love it so much.
Speaking of those intros and stuff, just to get into actually talking more about the narrative here, that's one of my favorite things that goes on throughout the whole game is when you first, when Snake first like it touches base or is in the same room as a boss, like say Revolver Ocelot, which I think he's the first boss. They always put the name of the character on the screen with the voice actor in parentheses, and I just think that was so that lended itself to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like that name recognition really stuck with us as young people, seeing those names, and you could read it. You're like, oh, that's the name of the, like after you played it through 3, 4, 5 times, you stop reading the top line, you start reading that bottom line. Oh, that's the voice actor. Huh? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, once again, I think that was just a really cool way of making, you know, yes, you're breaking the fourth wall by doing that. And I think that's a very risky thing to do from a presentation standpoint. But like you said, I think it makes it better because it makes them feel more real and grounded. You know, it makes you feel like you are watching a movie while you are playing a game. And that fits the world so perfectly. And so it never pulled me out in any way, or it never took me out of the experience. It only enhanced the experience. You know, it's like there, for all intents and purposes, it's like doing the title splash screen, you know, like 10 minutes into the movie, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so cheesy. but like it works. Cheesy works for this franchise, and I love it. It just adds to that, again, that package, that presentation, and I love it.
The narrative is such a roller coaster. All the different reveals, all the different twists, and if you've never played it, this is your chance now to back out and come back later, because now I think we'll talk a little bit more about the narrative itself. But let's just pick a random spot here. And what is your favorite like narrative point in the game? And on top of that, who's your favorite boss fight and why?
Ooh. I think I'll start with my favorite boss fight. My favorite boss fight is definitely the Gray Fox fight. I think when you fight the cyborg ninja after, when he shows, because he only shows up, kind of every now and then. He really only shows up to help you, and it's one of those things where it's like, I guess that's my favorite narrative too, right? It's like this mysterious figure that appears and helps you, and sometimes, and like the first time he helps you, it's one of those things where like he comes in to help you because I guess maybe when you talk about the story, maybe Snake would have lost against Ocelot in their fight. I think the game, when you watch the cutscenes and you watch how it goes, I think you kind of assume that Snake either doesn't have the SOCOM or he doesn't have enough bullets to take down Ocelot without something happening to Bane. So that's when you first see Gray Fox come and save him or take out Ocelot by chopping off his hand, right? My hand! And he's in and he's out, right? He only appears for what, 2 lines or maybe just 1, where he appears and he's in stealth camo. First of all, stealth camo, he's invisible, but Snake somehow still sees him, right? Turns around, looks at him, points the gun at him and says, "Who are you?" He takes the camo off and just says, "I'm like you, I don't have any." I think that's his only line when you first meet him. And then he kind of, something happens and he freaks out and then he leaves, and then that's it. And same thing, your reaction as a player is literally the same as Snake's when he bounces off. Snake literally follows him with the pistol. When he freaks out and he jumps a couple times, goes invisible, disappears. Snake points the gun at the entrance and he just goes, "Who the hell?" And you're like, "Yes, yes, Snake. Who the hell is that? Who the fuck is this guy? What the fuck just happened?" And like, but and then that's it. You don't, who the fuck is this guy? And then you don't hear from him or see him until you are ready to leave and go to the next part of the game when he calls you on the codec, right? And he's like, "Hey, watch out, there's Claymore mines around there."
Snake, be careful. There are Claymore mines around there. Use a mine detector.
And you're like, "Oh fuck, really? Holy shit, this guy's trying to help me." And again, he doesn't tell you who he is, right? You're not using burst transmission. You have to be nearby. Are you nearby? Just don't worry about it. There's a tank up ahead. Just letting you know. He's like, "What the fuck?" The Snake's just like, again, Snake is like, "Dude, I'm not here to. What is this beating around the bush crap?" He's like, "Who are you, bro? Just call me Deep Throat, man." "Oh, you mean Deep Throat from the Watergate scandal, Richard Nixon?" That type, like, little deep cut right there. And he's just like, "No, I'm just one of your fans." And he just, and then that's it. The call ends, and you're like, "Bro, who is this guy, bro?"
Who are you?
Just call me Deep Throat.
Deep Throat? The informant from the Watergate scandal?
Never mind about that.
You're not using burst transmission. Are you nearby?
Listen, there's a tank in front of your position waiting to ambush you.
Who are you anyway?
One of your fans.
So like when you finally meet him and you figure out who he is, and you don't even, like, you don't figure out who he is until the end of the fight, and you're just like, the whole time you're like, "Bro, who the fuck is this guy, bro?" Because the whole time you're just like, "Is this guy on my team or he's on the other team? Is he, what the fuck?" And it's not even like he plays both sides. He's literally just in the middle, and he's only there for you, for Snake. He's not there for anything else. He doesn't care about anything else. He's basically a zombie in a freaking in a cyborg suit, and he's only there to fight you. Like, he just wants to kill you or you, for you to kill him. That's the only reason he's there. And you're like, "What?" So like the Gray Fox fight and the narrative around Gray Fox is I love it. I think it's incredible. Like, it's awesome. I love Snake. I love Gray Fox. Like, I was going to say earlier, if you had to say you can't pick the main character from MGS1, it's Gray Fox for sure. I think there's so much around Gray Fox that I feel like they tell you through the codec and stuff, but like I feel like I wish that I could play a 3D, I could really see what happened to him. Um, technically what happened to him in the older games in MGS2, I believe. Um, I think he actually appears in both, but it's like knowing his story is it's just as incredible. Every character has such a good story. There's not really a character that gets left in the dust, but Gray Fox, his narrative, everything around him, and then his fight is my favorite, hands down. Probably in the entire series, to be honest.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the cooler one of the cooler characters, but like you said, I think just the buildup of him being there. Who is he? What does he want? What is he doing? And Snake's almost like dismissal of that and just be like, yeah, the grumpy old man and just, come on, what do you want? Who are you? I love that. That's so good. I think mine is kind of a maybe predictable answer here, but I loved the Psycho Mantis fight. I think in order to have I think in order to have a good villain, you need to have presentation. You need to be a villain if you're going to be a villain. And Psycho Mantis, man, the first time I fought that, first of all, it blew my mind that they could do that in a game and get away with it. And I was like, what? Like, how do you beat this guy? Like, this is impossible. And the way that you have to beat him in such a unique way, you have to beat him. It's like you said, it felt like I was helping Snake, not like, oh, I have to do these things outside of the game. No, no, no. It didn't feel that way at all. I felt completely immersed. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. And obviously I didn't, I don't think anybody figured it out on their first try of going through it and being like, oh, well, let me just use the context clues here and do things outside of the game world to beat this guy in the game. When that first happened, I was blown away. I didn't even know that you could do that in a video game.
For those who have not played and are still stuck around, in the Mantis fight, the game straight up is like the colonel calls you on after you've been probably flailing about not knowing what to do. He calls you on the fucking codec and he's like, Snake, fucking plug your controller into port 2, stupid. And they get the fucking Hideo. See, instead of saying video, it says Hideo. So that's your indicator to switch the fucking port.
Yeah, I think you have to call them. You have to call Campbell because the whole point of that game, like if you're getting stuck somewhere, the codec is there to help you, right? It's there to give you more dialogue, but also the game will give you hints on how to beat a boss or how to get to the next area wherever you need to go. But for that fight specifically, you have to call them like 4 times because they slowly hint more and more that he's reading your movements, like he's reading. I think they're just like he's reading your mind, and then they tell you it's like he's reading your movements, and then I think they say they're reading your inputs. You're like, what the fuck? And then eventually he's just like, Snake, I got it. Just take your controller and put it into port 2. That'll confuse him. He doesn't know what's going on in port 2, and you're like, what? No way, bro. What? So it's like that's like you said, like it's an incredible game mechanic to put in, right? When you first meet him, the dude is like reading your memory card. If you have, I think there's a specific game, I can't remember the name of it. There's a specific game if you have, he like mentioned that game by name, that you have a save file in your memory card. If you save too often, he calls you a coward. If you don't save enough, which is what I always did, he tells you that you're reckless.
You have not saved often. You are somewhat reckless.
And fun fact, like when he does, and he shakes your controller. If you had the DualShock or the vibrating, I don't know if they called it the DualShock, the first one, but when it would vibrate, you put it on the ground and the sticks would vibrate, and it would be like he's literally controlling your controller through the game. They wanted to have him manipulate the TV. They wanted him to be able to mess with the volume through the PlayStation hardware. But I guess technical limitations. But they wanted him to do much more. They wanted him to mess with your video input. They wanted him to be able to change your TV like channel, right? So like you would get like the actual like signal loss or whatever. You would get interference. That's what they wanted to do with him. But due to limitations, we still got an amazing character that was like he's like, put your controller on the floor, and it's like you're talking to him. You're like, what? And he's like, yeah, just put it down slowly. Yeah, like that. That's good. That's good. And then he does his little thing, and then your controller will start vibrating. And I remember as a kid being like, oh, what the fuck? Like this guy's crazy. Like this is insane. This guy's magic. This guy's real. He's trapped in the game, and I have to beat him. Otherwise, he's gonna break out and kill me. You know?
Oh my god, that's so funny that you picked fucking Mantis, Anthony. Going back to the Cyborg Ninja, like you first see him in that Ocelot after the Ocelot fight, and then when you go to fight him, that hallway of death leading up to him, that was terrifying as a kid. Like I was like, wait, I'm not playing Resident Evil right now. What the fuck is happening? It was so intense. The music was very intense. And it's all these dead guys. I think even one guy's like, what the blood? And then, there's blood everywhere. And you're just like, holy shit, what's in that room? Is it going to be a fucking monster?
Dude, the amount of fear, like as a child, like just the guys are like, you see that they try to make you see that their like ribs are exposed and they're all like just laid out. And the guy turns the corner and he's like, it's a ghost. And he just passes out and dies. You turn the corner and the guy's like, because he's invisible, he's just hanging in the air like he's possessed by a poltergeist. And then Fox just drops him, and you're just like, oh my god, it's the ninja, holy! And he just drops him and just walks into the next room, and you're just like, holy shit, this guy's a fucking badass. Like what? He took out a hallway of guys with machine guns with a sword. Like what the fuck?
I think I read that Shinkawa, one of the artists, was the one that came up with him, and he was just like making drawings, and they were like sick, and he was like, here's a cyborg ninja, and he's like, what? And he's, Hideo's like, what? He's like, yeah, we gotta have him in the game. Okay, that's cool. And so they worked him in, and I just thought that story was so interesting. That was from one of the interviews that we read. I was like, wow, he was just like, we should have a cyborg ninja in the game. Hideo's like, okay. That was fucking cool. I loved that. What was the other thing? Yeah. Was there any like narrative points that were just like that's what that like did you in? Like, oh man, that was an incredible scene. Like, I think about that scene all the time.
You go first, Anthony. Let me think about this.
Okay.
One.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could pick any part of the game. One of the things that we talk about when we have been playing Rebirth is every part of a game can be somebody's favorite part of a game. And this is one of them where I think you could very easily say any one of these story beats could be somebody's favorite just because of it's a roller coaster. It's insane. I absolutely loved the Sniper Wolf fight. I thought that was so like I've never served in the military. I have a fascination with history and guns, and I love that stuff. And I think this game is really a cause of that. And one of my fascinations with kind of that long range sniper unit is because of Sniper Wolf. But if I had to pick one scene in this game that really like grabbed me, it was the torture scene. Like when that happened, I thought I didn't know if you could win. I genuinely thought that you were going to lose, and it was like, well, this is it. They've got us. And Snake's getting tortured, and they don't cut away from it. They show you. And I remember just being like, as a kid, being like, oh my gosh, you're mashing the button as fast as you can because you're like, I have to save him. Like me as a kid, I was like, I have to save him, and getting like freaked out whenever it would start getting close, and just being like, I have to save Snake. I have to save Snake. And just being so like panicked at trying to keep him alive. To me, that was the scene I think that really jumped out as being, as a kid, really one that shook me when I played it.
Yeah, I think we each would have maybe two. We would have to pick two, right? One that you felt was the best one when you were younger, and then later on when you're an adult and you see these things and you kind of see like some of the messages behind some of these scenes and what the characters say. I think it gives you like a different perspective on how you watch the game and how you read the story and how you understand how the story's told. And I think as like a from a kid standpoint, like the scene that stands out is probably when you fight Liquid when he's in the Hind B, because it's just like as a kid you're like another like impossible situation, right? Similar with like the tank. How is this one guy gonna beat a tank? And then you fight Liquid and you're like, how is this one guy gonna beat a fucking helicopter with machine guns and missiles? And then he tells you that you're brothers, and you're like, oh my God, what the heck? This is too much for my little brain. That's my brother, and he's in a freaking chopper, and I'm supposed to beat that? Like, that's crazy. Like, I remember fighting Liquid and being like, oh my God, like, there's no way. Like, he's in a freaking helicopter, bro. Like, he's in a helicopter, and I can't leave. Once that door closes, I can't leave. They won't let me back in. So it's like, this is so scary. I think that's like the best scene for me is when you run out of there and it's Liquid and he's like, I'm ready to hey, he keeps calling you brother. And finally Snake is like, dude, why do you keep calling me brother? Who are you? And he tells you like, yeah, like he doesn't even directly tell you. He just says, I'm you, I'm your shadow. And Snake, and just like you, also Snake is just like, what does that mean? And he just starts fighting you and you got to take down a chopper, and you're like, oh, okay, back to business, I guess.
When I was rewatching the playthrough of this game, I forgot how many times you kill fucking Liquid, and he just keeps fucking coming back. You're like, dude, you blow him up in a fucking helicopter. No, that didn't kill him. The entirety of that, of his losses to Snake, like fucking gets exploded in the helicopter, and then you blow him up into fucking Metal Gear, and then you wake up, and then you guys fight on top of the Metal Gear, and you knock him, and he's like, if you fall off, you'll die. And then he falls off, doesn't fucking die, that chases you in a fucking car and wrecks it, and doesn't fucking die. Like, will you just die? Jesus Christ!
Let it go, Liquid, let it
Stop!
go.
Like, you, Jesus. But yeah, I love all that. As far as like you said, like as a kid to an adult, I mean, iconic scene, definitely the hallway scene with the ninja. It's gonna be the ninja both times for me, because as a kid that was my guy. He's got the sword, and I fucking thought swords were so fucking cool, especially ninjas. And I was like, oh my fucking God, and he's a robot, Mega Man X, let's go. And so like that scene with the hallway, and then the end scene as an adult, definitely when he's getting fucking killed by the Metal Gear. Like, he gets fucked up, he gets his fucking arm lasered off, and then he's like, the court of fucking fox is more dangerous than a jackal, and he just fucking shoots the thing, and then he gets like scraped off the fucking ledge and falls down, and he's like, tell my sister, whatever, that I killed her parents. And then he gets smashed.
Yeah.
Like, that whole character is fucked.
Yeah, they do such a good job of like hyping him up and like letting you know how good Gray Fox was, right? Like the only man to be given the code name Fox, right? And you're like, oh man, that's cool. Like, what does that mean? That's so cool. And then like, like no one else would be able to take on a Metal Gear except Solid, right? But it's like Gray Fox pulled up, not phased, not scared, and also like went toe to toe with the Metal Gear. Granted, he had his suit, but it's like he wasn't scared to fight Metal Gear. He put up a good fight until Liquid caught him, right? But it's like damn, like that was him. That's the legendary Gray Fox. Like you deserved just that little bit that you saw of him. You're like, damn, like if I was in this universe, like I think like you can't help but be like, yep, that man is 100% worthy of being the only one to ever be called Fox in Foxhound. He's just such a good character, and you could tell that it was like, man, I bet in his prime he was a fucking gangster, And if you played, I think Metal Gear 1, I think that's when he's introduced, and like he's the guy that taught Snake a lot of what he knows, and it's like, yep, that's the guy, that's the OG. There's Big Boss, and then there's Gray Fox, and then Solid when it comes to as far as like teaching and doing whatever. Like Gray Fox was the man, before Solid came along and really became the number one guy.
There was one more scene that I thought was kind of horrifying as a kid, and it's that scene where you get on the elevator, and it's shortly after the Hind D fight. It's like right after it, I think. And Otacon calls you on the radio, and you guys are going back and forth about stealth camo, and he was like, I was gonna get you those stealth camos or whatever, and then you get on that elevator, and it's like weight limit, and then it's like you're sitting there talking to Otacon, he's like, wait, there were 4, they're missing, and the elevator's saying the weight limit. Snake, they're on there with you fucking. And his face is like zoomed in, like the codec animations. Like, obviously that's for the player, right? They can't fucking, like, the characters can't see each other on the codec, right? Like, but him like zoomed way in, and he's like, "Mother Snake, watch out!"
It looks like somebody's pressing his face against the camera. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look out, Snake! The guys who stole my stealth prototypes are in there with you.
But that, the footage of that of you playing it, you're just throwing all 4 guys into each other. That's so funny. It was like fucking watching a wrestling.
They sound so terrifying
Yeah.
too, man. Like as soon as he says that, the codec call ends, and they're just like, "Too late, Snake, now die!" And then I just toss them around until they die.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like fucking get the chairs, hero. That's what it was like. It's like we're wrestling now. This ain't a fucking gunfight, boys. As far as like I know we're kind of glossing over the narrative. It's so we can't just go scene for scene like we want to, but and each boss is so unique, and they all have their own unique, like even Raven, like you fight him twice, and technically you don't even get to fight Decoy Octopus. He just fucking dies in the cell. But the Sniper Wolf fight's really interesting. The end of her is really, especially when I was rewatching it recently, how fucked up that scene is, where she gets a lung shot and she's like, "Finish me off," and Otacon's like, "No, my woman," and then he just shoots her. The fuck? Could we really not have saved her somehow? Like, CPR? I don't know.
Yeah, it tells you. I mean, it shows you a lot again about like the kind of character that Snake is, right? Like he's not some young guy that's
Yeah.
I'm here to help people, and I'm here to stop Metal Gear and save as many people along the way as I can. If there's any innocents, like I'm here to save them. He's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm here to get the job done. I'm here to destroy Metal Gear, even when he knows he's been lied to, that they're not telling him everything, that it's all bullshit. They pull the wool over his eyes. They're not telling him what he wants to hear, that type of stuff. He's just like, okay, F you, but I'm still here and I got to get the job done. And it's like, okay, like this guy that's the kind of guy he is. Like, whatever, dude. Like, at the end of the day, hey, I'm here to get a job done. Whatever. I don't care. I don't care about your girlfriend. I don't care that she let you pet the dogs and feed the dogs. Like, this bitch tried to kill me, and she would probably try to kill you too. Like telling Meryl, sure, the mission would probably be a lot better with backup, no matter how green they are. And he's just like, nope, you're going to slow me down. Like, he's like, no, I won't, I promise. Okay, but what if you do? Then you can shoot me. And he goes, I don't like to waste bullets. Like, this guy is like,
take me too. I know this place better than you do.
You'll just slow me down. You don't have enough battle experience.
I won't slow you down, I promise.
And what if you do?
Then you can shoot me.
I don't like to waste bullets.
he's that kind of guy. It's like, bro, like, stay the fuck out of my way. Let me do my job. Like, and don't do your best not to bullshit me along the way. Like that's one of the most impactful things that one of the most impactful lines of dialogue when he's talking to Meryl, and he says that. It's like, what happens if you get in my way? Then you can shoot me. I don't like to waste bullets. Like, no, like, stop begging. I'm not here to have a conversation with you. Stay here and let me do my job. And it's like, the dude it's incredible. It's incredible writing. It's just at the end of the day, it's incredible writing,
It's so good. It really is. I think one of the things that was so shocking, we grew up on stories where, like you said, the good guy goes in and saves everybody. Not only do they win this improbable suicide mission, they win, they save everybody, and then they get the girl. Everybody goes home happy, and there's a big smooch at the end, and then roll credits. Snake that's not who he is. That's not what this story is. He is straight up telling you right now, I don't care if this is the good ending or the bad ending or whatever. I'm here to do the job, finish the job. Anybody that gets in my way, whether you're good, bad, evil, gray, I don't care. I am at point A. I will get to point B, and I do not care what stands in between me and there. And like in my mind, as a kid, that just made him even cooler to me because he wasn't those stereotypes. He wasn't a good guy. He wasn't, Batman or like the Superman, the guy who's just puffing his chest out and he's like, "Not now, bad guys." No, that's not who he is. And I loved it. I loved that change. I loved the narrative that this entire story that it's trying to tell. And obviously, I didn't understand the Cold War ties or the information that was trying to be presented. I just knew it was a cool story and I loved it. And then once I got older, I was able to appreciate it again because of the ramifications with, espionage and history and all of that stuff. It's good. It's good both ways, and I loved it.
Of course, the narrative, you find out that he's not like this big stoic guy. He has several breakdowns throughout the story. If you let Meryl, quote unquote, die, he kind of has a breakdown. I think the audacity of him having a breakdown about Meryl when Otacon's like, bro, you shot my woman, so let's leave. Just the two of us, I guess. That ending is really funny to me. But there's the two endings, of course. And I don't know. I can never decide which one I like better now. I mean, as a kid, it was like, we gotta save Meryl every time, save the girl. And now I'm like, I don't know. They're both kind of interesting to me. Which ending do you prefer?
I would say probably the Otacon ending, only because I've done it so many times. I remember as a kid, I think I only got the Meryl ending a couple times, and it was just like, I'm tired of mashing my controller button this many times, so I just skip the torture, and I've gotten the Otacon ending so many and then the fact that if you save Otacon, you get the camo, and then which makes just future playthroughs just so much more easy and more fun to kind of walk around and like if you have the stealth camo, you can just kind of walk through enemies, like clip through them, and they'll just spin around endlessly. And they'll spin around endlessly and just be like, huh, huh, huh. So I just like used to do that with the camo. And then if you save Meryl and you get the Meryl ending, you get the bandana. But I've just always I felt like it's I guess just also as a kid and being a boy, it's like this that I'd rather save the guy because maybe he can help me or something. I don't know. I feel like Otacon. I felt like it was more humorous, right? And then we talked about it a little bit earlier, right? The whole Dave and Hal and like how they're that dynamic, and it kind of began that dynamic that went into two, and that they're really good friends. And like Otacon is one of the few guys that Snake actually like cares about, right? One of those few people. Meryl too, but it's like Otacon's that guy, right? Canonically, it's Meryl, right? Because in two, and I think in four, when you see her again, they talk about how after Shadow Moses that they lived together for a little while and they tried to make it work, but Snake was an alcoholic, he was depressed, and she ended up leaving. But it's like, to me, my headcanon, I think it's she somehow found a way to get out. She didn't actually die, and it's actually Snake and Otacon that make it out of there. That's my favorite.
True answer right there is I picked the ending based on New Game Plus. I love that.
That fucking bother you, man. I just was like thinking that when Zero said, I get tired of mashing the button. I was like, that fits you so well. The man that I've come to know, that fits you so well.
Yeah.
So I was wondering that when I was watching your footage, and just being like, oh man, I wonder which ending he prefers. And I think I've kind of grown to like the Otacon ending, especially. I mean, I know we're not really talking about 2 and so on, but it makes 2 feel much more, makes it make more sense, because it's like, where the fuck is Meryl, in 2? And she's supposedly, obviously, doesn't die in this ending with Otacon. She escapes, because they don't blow up the fucking place or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I've kind of come back around. I don't mind jamming the button. I'm that guy. The pixels matter to me, damn it.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever explained or explicitly told how Otacon makes it out canonically, because it's you and Meryl on the jet ski in as far as the actual story in canon. But even then, like you said, right, like it makes 2 feel like a fluid continuation because Meryl is literally only mentioned one time in 2, and it's at the very beginning because it's almost like a throwaway line. Because Snake says he says something that's almost like a jab at Meryl, and Otacon tells him like, "Oh, you mean Meryl?" And I think he basically says like, "Yeah, she was like yeah, it wasn't meant to be that. It was that type of like throwaway line, and that was it. That's the last you hear of anything related to Meryl." Um, so it's like, if that's the case, yeah, my canon is going to be that that he leaves with Otacon because they just they get straight to work pretty much right after, you know?
I think it could be the old man in me, the jaded old man, where I'm just like, you don't get the fairy tale ending with the woman. That's why it fits now. Maybe as an older guy, I'm just like, yeah, the women died, and now we have to go be depressed together.
We're gonna go smoke and drink
Yeah,
and be depressed
fuck.
until they call us again.
I think my canon ending is that as Snake is riding off on the jet ski, he passes Leon Kennedy and Ashley, leaving Resident Evil 4, and they just trade islands and do the other person's game.
I wanted to talk one last bit about the twists, that they hit you with. The first is the DARPA chief is Decoy Octopus, which they kind of say something about that. I mean, you kind of get the idea that you're going to get tricked at some point if you're really paying attention on your first time through it. But I mean, they reveal that, right? And you're like, oh man, what a twist! And then the whole brother thing, he's like, whoa, what a twist! Of course, and then Gray Fox killing Naomi's parents and her being a double agent. I guess there's a lot of twists in this game. And what was the final twist I was thinking about? I forgot. I blanked. Test over.
Good.
I failed.
Nice.
Oh, the final twist is that Ocelot is you see it at the very end where he's talking to the president and he basically admits to killing the DARPA chief on purpose because he was the only guy who knew who he really was. And you're like, whoa, man, like it's just fucking smacking me around in a circle every time we get about an hour or two down the road in the game. And I just wondered like which one of those like sits with you and that you think about all the time, or maybe you don't think about any of these and you're just like whatever.
I think the biggest twist is also at the very end, ironically, with Ocelot, is that you find out that even though he's so bitter and like Liquid hates Snake so much, right? Because he tells him, I'm the inferior twin, right? We're both twins, we're both sons of Big Boss, but they made me to be inferior to you, right? You have all the dominant genes, I have all the recessive genes. Everybody picks you over me. Like, so he always walks around with that chip on his shoulder. He always feels like he has something to prove that he, is better, that he is the real like successor to Big Boss. And then you find out at the end that it's the opposite, that Liquid is the twin with the dominant genes, and that Solid Snake is the one with the recessive genes. And it's like through your ego and through this chip that you can't get off your shoulder, you don't realize that you were actually the superior one. And because of your, like, I guess, and you look at it in the lens of like, does that mean on paper, at the end of the day, could the story go a completely different way? Like, does Solid Snake make it all the way to the end and then lose because he's not the dominant gene twin, right? And it's like, he probably would lose, right? Because they're taking everything that Big Boss had, down to his DNA, and they put all the good stuff and all of the not as good stuff and separated them to make like the perfect soldier. And by definition, Liquid is the perfect soldier. It's all Liquid, but Liquid is so blinded by whoever he got the idea from. I don't think it's told like who told him that, where he got that information from, that he just thinks that he's the inferior twin and therefore he has something to prove, when in reality it's like, bro, like if the roles were reversed, like if you knew who you really were, you could probably have beaten Solid Snake and gotten what you wanted in the end. I always thought that was interesting. And it happens at the very end. I think it's Ocelot that tells the president, who ends up being, who ironically is Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid 2,
Yes.
but that Liquid was the superior twin. And it's like, yeah, somehow he had no idea, but he still lost. And it's like, yeah, because he's basically blinded by rage that Solid Snake is this legendary soldier, and he's like, bro, yeah, because he has all the dominant genes. Like, of course he is. I was like, no, bro, that's you, brother. Like, you would have been able to win probably at the end of the day.
That was one of the other twists I was trying to remember. What about you, Anthony?
I'm trying to remember where Liquid got that information from. I always just assumed it was Ocelot, but now that you're saying that, I think you're right. I don't think it's ever explained where he learned that from. Yeah, that's gonna bug me now.
I think
I might have to figure that
I
out.
think I just watched this scene today. I think is when I was rewatching it. He talks about the Les Infants Terribles or whatever.
Les Enfants Terribles.
There you go. He says that, and then he talks about how they took Big Boss's DNA, and then there was 8 of them, and then they killed off 6 of them, and then they separated. Somehow he found this information out. He doesn't really say who he got the information from, but he knows all about it somehow. But they must. I would guess that. I don't know if they explain this in a later game, but I would guess that they purposely told them both differently, or told him that so to see what he would do, because that's like the whole point of Naomi's character, right? Is she's like so driven that your genes decide your fate, and that's your fate, and you have no control over that. And then the whole game basically is like, no, actually, you control your fate, and she comes to that realization in her exposition at the end of the game or whatever, and I just think it's really interesting that this game came out and just tying it in all the way over to our Final Fantasy VII Lust, how both of these games talk about loss and how to move on from that, and how to just accept your not your fate really, but to accept your life. And then what was Naomi say? Live, Snake. Everybody dies when their time's up. Okay. All right. Thanks, Naomi. I don't even know. But I know we kind of glossed over some of the. I mean, there's still just so much. We could sit here and we could spend 4 hours, 5 hours. We could spend the entire play session of a game. Maybe we will someday get all 3 of us on a long play in one of Zero's replays. But is there anything that either of you would like to add?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say you're probably gonna have a lot on the cutting room floor, unfortunately. We feel we've been talking forever, but it feels like we haven't even like scratched the surface, unfortunately. But like for me, it's like there's 2 things that I've taken away from this game, specifically from this first game, that I've realized over the years of playing it over and over and over and listening to these conversations repeatedly. And it's like realizing that a lot of my life and a lot of my personality is, like I said, I think I said a little bit earlier, like picking a few things from Solid Snake and like applying them to real life, right? Where it's like the like it is what it is kind of attitude. And there's a couple of pieces of like dialogue that really kind of resonate with me and that apply to like real life, right? And you said one earlier, right? It's like one of them is like your genes don't defy you, right? Like it doesn't matter that you are the inferior twin, that you're the inferior clone. You can still like win, right? Like it doesn't matter. Who cares what it says on paper, right? Who cares if, and like to apply that to real life, right? Like it doesn't matter if people call you dumb or if people make fun of your parents. Like if your parents were this, you're going to be this, like it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because you are who you are. You are unique in your genes, whereas they might be similar to your parents, they are not identical. You won't be your parents. You don't have to be your parents. You don't have to be anybody. You are you, right? You can live the life the way you want to live. You don't have to copy anybody. You don't have to try to be anybody. You just be the best you that you can be. And then the other couple of lines of dialogue that really resonate are when he's talking to he said it the same thing a couple times in a couple different ways to Meryl, and he says it to Otacon, right? Where Otacon, asks him like, you're or he tells him like, you're incredible, you're like a legendary hero,
Aren't you?
and that's what everybody knows him as, like some legendary hero. And he tells him, no, like I'm not a hero. Like in the movies, the hero always gets the girl, right? It's like I'm just a guy that's here to do a job. And Meryl tells him too, like, aren't you like there's no he tells her there's no such thing as heroes like on the battlefield or in general, really. And she asks him, "Aren't you a hero?" And he's like, "No. I'm just a guy that's good at what he does, killing, And it's like that type of attitude is like when we talk about people that want to learn stuff like from me, right? Like when it taking to quickly bring up a different game, right? When we talk about like Final Fantasy 14, right? Like our friend Drin that asks me questions and considers me his mentor when it comes to tanking and stuff like that. Like Drin always tells me he wants to be a tank like me. I have my confidence, have the way I play, and it's like I'm this. That's how I look at it. It's like I'm this legendary tank to a friend of mine, and it's like no, I'm really not. I'm just a guy that's good at what he does. I pick up mechanics and I just do what I do. Like I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be better than me. Like I'm not. I don't want you to be stuck here. I don't want to me that's setting the bar too low, right? Like don't look at me as some kind of hero because they don't exist. It's just I'm just a guy that's good at what he does. So I think those pieces of dialogue really resonate with me for like it's been able to keep me from being I know people joke about me being egotistical. I'm not really actually in real life. I'm not all that egotistical. Just because it's not, so what if you think I'm this or that? That's not what you see is not who I really am at the end of the day. Not all of me. At the end of the day, the only person that knows me that much are my siblings, my parents, and my wife. I mean, I love all my friends and I love talking to my friends online, but that's just the way it is, right? Like my impression of you right now, of you and Anthony, is not who you guys are when the computer turns off and you spend time with your families or you spend time with your friends in real life or whatever. You're a completely different person. You're not you're not who my first impression says you are. I think that resonates really heavily with me and I apply that so much to my day-to-day life. And as I gotten older, I was like, where do I get this from? And part of it is my dad. Also, my dad is that way. My dad does not like to be in the spotlight. My dad does not like to be called anything really like, oh, you're so smart, you're so this. And my dad is the same kind of guy where he's just like, I wouldn't say that. I'm just doing it this way. I'm just doing this the best way I know how. Like that's all it is. I'm not some magic, mystical, mythic creature. I'm just a guy that's just good at what he does. So I think all that really resonates with me. And as I've gotten older, it's like, this is where I get it from. I get it from Metal Gear Solid. I get it from Solid Snake. I get it from David Hayter's sweet voice.
That's really perfect. I mean that's the greatest thing about what why we were bringing these games up, why we talk about these games. And I know some of the games that we talk about have been talked about to death, and it's for a good reason. And it's this right here. I mean, your formative years, you were shown both the fallacy of man and the truth, which is we're just people, and I like that a lot. Anthony, you got any final thoughts here?
Yeah, I think this game, like you guys have said, the thing that I took away from this as a kid, and especially now as as a man now, I think anytime that something grabs your attention, go down the rabbit hole. Like when I first played this game, I remember making the leap from this game to Tom Clancy books. Kind of that espionage, history adjacent stuff. Go down that rabbit hole, explore it, see if this is something that you are really interested in, and that can end up being something that carries through your entire life. I to this day I still really love U.S. history and the history of our military. I love the idea of patriotism and brotherhood and what that means on both sides of the coin, the good and the bad of that. This game was the first time that I ever realized that could have a negative connotation. So explore that. Anytime that any of your beliefs are challenged, that's a good thing. That's something where you can either further your belief and be like, yes, this is something that is a core foundational piece of who I am as a person. I believe this, and I'll defend this and I'll die arguing about this. Or you'll learn something new that changes your opinion, changes your viewpoints, and now you are a better person because of it, because you've had those views challenged and you were able to walk away as a better person because of it. And this game taught me that. You know, I truly believe that. I really believe that a lot of my interests today are because of this game and the rabbit holes that I went down because of this game. So that's my takeaway is if you are, it doesn't even have to apply to this game, but if you are interested in something, pursue it. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, quote unquote embarrassing or nerdy or, you know, like I said earlier, it challenges your beliefs. Pursue it and see if it's something that you enjoy and something that you like. And if it is, there you go. You got something new.
Couldn't have said it better myself, boys. We've really enjoyed having you on the show, Marco, and I really think that we probably should look into a long form Let's Play scenario where we can really scene by scene break down Metal Gear Solid. This is more about our experiences and our thoughts on the takeaways of this game, and we really appreciate it. We're glad that you could have joined us today, and we hope to see you in the future.
Please call me Zero.
Please, yes, Zero. Yes, did I call you Zero? I don't even know. The
No, you
interchanging.
didn't. That's why I was like, please.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
actually surprised you didn't call me Zero once.
Yeah.
So far.
I was practicing all day. I was like, his name is Marco, and if he says his name's Marco, we're gonna call him that.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was nervous. I was like, I know everything about this
Nah.
game so much, specifically this game, and I was like, is this going to be just like the day I shot Baker? I was like, is this going to be the day that I all of a sudden forget everything I know about my favorite game in all
No
of
way.
existence? And thankfully, it didn't end up that way. So, but it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun preparing. I had a lot of fun doing the playthrough. Like I've never been so focused and
Yeah.
locked in. Right, I had to make sure I didn't die. I don't think I recorded any deaths. I think I died like twice. But like I didn't want to die. I didn't want to goof off too much, even though there were points where I was clearly I had forgot that I was recording, where I was messing around with. I think when you fight the tank, I think it was like after the tank fight, I was
Yeah.
like trying to sniper shoot some of the
I love that.
gun cameras, and I was like spending a lot
I
of time
loved
trying to
that.
do it. And I remember sitting there, and at some point I was like, God, this is taking too long. And I was like, and then I paused and I was like, oh fuck, I'm still recording. I need to stop doing this shit. That's not the purpose of this.
That was funny. And then you running down the hallway going, like all
and
you were,
equipping
Yeah.
the weapon just to make some noise. Give me something. This
Yeah.
hallway is long and boring.
that sign of someone who's been in that piece of media for so long. I love seeing that. So we I know myself, Anthony, appreciate you recording the footage and getting on here and sharing your thoughts on this. So thank you.
Yeah, I think as a special gift, maybe we let our guest do the see ya.
Oh, I like that.
What the frick? The honor,
Yeah,
the love and appreciation. Oh yeah, I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing like other stuff with you guys. I know, whenever you guys have run out of ideas for a week, if you need to scramble and get an episode together,
yeah.
there's plenty in my gaming history with me, my dad, my uncle.
Mhm.
I got stories that'll chew up a lot of time. So
Yes.
feel free to use me whenever you need me. But until then, I think this is it for us. I think it's been great. It's been good. Hopefully, not too much ends up on the cutting room floor, if any. So,
Nothing will.
with that being said, hope everybody enjoyed, and see ya.
Oh,
Quick, Craig, turn it off.
You mustn't allow yourself to be chained to fate, to be ruled by your genes. Humans can choose the type of life they want to live. The important thing is that you choose life, and then live